Hi, welcome back. Imagine if you're building a pretty large scale application or SpringBoot services where you want to expose your APIs to the third party, then remembering these endpoints will be really difficult. In order to help it, we have a nice documenter. One of such is called a Swagger. SpringBoot has a nice integration with Swagger. Let's go ahead and see how we can test our application with Swagger. I'll start by opening this file which is called as pom.xml where we want to put the dependency. Remember, Swagger dependency is not part of your start.spring.io. It's an external dependency. So I may have to go back and look around and put this in pom.xml. The dependency is pretty straightforward where you want Swagger 2 and we need to look at something called SpringFox Swagger UI, which is from io.springfox. These are the two dependencies which we need for generating Swagger documentation. Let me go ahead and save it. It downloads all your dependencies. We want to have one configuration file where we can put some basic information and written some dockets. I'll go ahead, create a new package. I'll call this as docs. In this package, I'll create a class which is called as Swagger config. Again, your choice to create this file name, anything you want. I want to have this as configuration, which is basically coming from Spring Framework context annotation configuration. The idea behind is this class will be loaded at initialization stage. And at the same time, I want the documenter to be enabled with annotated as enable Swagger 2. And we want to inject a docket B. How do we do it? I'll have a public method which returns a docket with a method name called as API. And I'll have this annotated as B. And I want to return a new docket with the documentation type. The documentation type which we're using is Swagger 2. I'll say documentation type of Swagger 2. All good. You can add a lot more properties here like company name, your licensing, description, and all of the things. You have a lot of courses in the library you can look around. Let's go ahead and invoke our application with Swagger. I'll start this application. We'll go back to one of the browser. I use Chrome as a browser. Here it is. If you look at the logs, what is generated, you will interestingly see something called Swagger. There's a documentation which gets generated, which will take the HTTP request. And all your endpoints are mapped to this API docs. Let me copy this. I'll go back to the browser and put something like http://localhost 99 / the string which we have copied, which is v2/API docs. This will give you the documentation pretty much in the JSON, which will be helpful if you are giving it to third party. But if you want to have a look at the UI, I can say localhost port number 9090 / swagger-ui.html. Now this will give you a nice UI where you can go ahead and test your application. The controller which we have written is called customer controller. It has got 5 methods in it. The first method you want to test is get customer so that we can see all the customers who are there. It's pretty simple where you click on that and there is a nice button called as try out. Let me click on that and execute. If a little scroll down, I should see all the values out here. The next one to test is get one customer. I want to try out this method and I'll put a customer ID called as 1 and execute. This will give you the customer detail of Harry who's 1. Let's go back and check if I can delete somebody. The delete one is very straightforward. I want to try this out and I want to enter a value called as 1. I click on execute, it gives me true. Now if you go back and see all the records which is there right here, I want to try this out. I'll have the customer ID 1 missing, who was Harry. The last two methods are to update and add. I want to add one record. The data model is already given. I will just have to try it out. I'll put some value. The customer ID is not really required in our case. I'll have customer name, who is called as Kanchan. I'll put some salary as 7878. And let us scroll down and execute. It has successfully executed and the response body has got the value. Let me go back and check in get all, which is right here. And execute, I should find the record of Kanchan, which is 7878. Let us go ahead and add a record, which is with the name. I want to have the customer name passed. I'll say it as Sachin. I'll give the value as 4545 and execute. This should give an acknowledgement of the ID called as 3, which is Sachin. Let me go back and look at all the records. I'll get all the customers, click on execute. Here you go with Sachin. The last but not the least, to update. I want to update one of the records. I would like to get one record which is there in my list, maybe 2. When I click on execute, this gives me a data of Peter. I'll copy this and go back to update, which is the put call. I'll try this out and put the dummy data. I'll say it as Peter Becky. I'll try this execute. All good. It has given me an acknowledgement, which is Peter Becky. I'll go ahead and check if the record has been updated by get. Here you go with the Peter Bucky. And that's it. It's pretty simple to work with Swagger. Thank you for watching this video.